Greenwood, Mississippi, June 1978. Population 3,500. A small town in the deep south where not much changed and people liked it that way. The town was divided, not officially, but everyone knew the lines. White families lived on one side of Main Street, black families on the other, and those lines weren't meant to be crossed. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell because we uncover the hidden gems that shaped the legends we know today. Bob Marley and the Wailers were on a U.S. tour. Their booking agent had scheduled a concert at the Greenwood Community Center, a venue that hosted traveling shows. The agent hadn't told Bob much about the town, just an address and a date. When Bob's tour bus pulled into Greenwood at 2 p.m., he immediately felt the tension, the stares, the way conversations stopped when black faces were seen in certain parts of town. Bob had experienced racism his whole life, but there was something different about the American South. The hatred here had roots that went back centuries. The tour bus parked behind the community center. Bob and his band started unloading equipment. That's when Sheriff Wade Coleman showed up. Wade was 52 years old, a white man who'd been sheriff for 20 years. His father had been sheriff before him, his grandfather before that. The Coleman family had enforced the law in Greenwood for 3 generations, and the law meant keeping things the way they'd always been. Wade walked up to the bus, hand resting on his gun belt. Not threatening, exactly, but making his presence known. "You boys got a permit for this?" Bob's tour manager stepped forward. "Yes, sir. We booked the venue months ago. Everything's legal." Wade looked at the paperwork. Everything was in order. He couldn't find a legal reason to shut it down, but legal didn't matter as much as tradition in Greenwood. "Let me be clear," Wade said, looking directly at Bob. "We don't want trouble in this town. You come here, you play your music, you leave. No speeches, no politics, no stirring people up. Understood?" Bob met Wade's eyes calmly. "I just make music, officer. That's all." "See that it stays that way." Wade walked back to his patrol car but didn't leave. He sat there, watching, making sure everyone knew he was watching. Bob's band was nervous. "Man, maybe we should cancel," one said. "This place feels wrong." "We're not canceling," Bob said firmly. "People bought tickets. They want to hear music. We're playing." Word spread fast in small towns. By 7 p.m., over 2,000 people had gathered at the community center. The venue only held 800, so people spilled outside into the parking lot and the street. Surprisingly, the crowd was mixed. About 60% white, 40% black. Young people mostly. Kids who'd grown up listening to Bob Marley on the Chaktis radio, who didn't care about the old divisions. But there were older white residents too, standing at the edges, arms crossed, disapproving. This wasn't their Greenwood. This wasn't how things were supposed to be. Wade stood near his patrol car, watching the crowd with growing unease. Too many people. Too mixed. This was exactly what he'd feared. Outsiders coming in and disrupting the order of things. The concert started at 8 p.m. Bob walked onto the makeshift stage and the crowd erupted. He launched into positive vibration, and the energy was electric. People were dancing, black and white together, boundaries forgotten in the music. Wade watched from outside. His jaw clenched. This wasn't right. These kids dancing together, mixing, acting like color didn't matter. It mattered. It had to matter. That's what kept things stable. After 3 songs, Bob paused to address the crowd. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Music brings people together. That's its purpose. Not to divide, to unite." Wade's hand moved to his gun, not to draw it, but just touching it. A habit. A reminder of his authority. Bob continued. "I know some people in this town don't want us here. They think we're troublemakers. But look around. You see trouble? I see people enjoying music. I see unity. I see love." The crowd cheered. The older white residents shifted uncomfortably. Wade had heard enough. He walked toward the stage, cutting through the crowd. People moved aside. The sheriff commanded that kind of respect, or fear. Wade climbed onto the stage. Bob stopped playing. The crowd went silent. "That's enough," Wade said into the microphone, his voice amplified across the crowd. "This concert is over. Everyone go home." The crowd erupted in protest. "No! Let him play! We paid for tickets." Bob stood calmly, waiting. Wade turned to him. "I'm shutting this down. Public safety concern." "What safety concern?" Bob asked. "Everyone's peaceful. You're inciting." "I'm playing music." Wade's face reddened. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone like Bob. "I'm the law in this town. When I say it's over, it's over." Bob looked at the crowd. Over 2,000 faces looking back at him. Young and old, black and white, all waiting to see what would happen next. Bob made a decision. He turned to Wade and spoke, not into the microphone, but directly to him. "You can shut down this stage, this venue, but you can't shut down music. If you make me leave here, I'll play in the street, in the parking lot, wherever these people can hear me, because they came for music, and I came to give it to them." Wade stared at Bob. "You're threatening me?" "No, sir. I'm telling you what's going to happen. You can let me finish this concert peacefully right here, or you can arrest me and I'll sing from your jail cell loud enough that people will hear. Your choice." The crowd was electric now. Phone calls were being made. More people were arriving. What had started as a concert was becoming something bigger, a standoff between the old way and something new. Wade realized he was losing control of the situation. If he arrested Bob, it would cause a riot. If he backed down, he'd look weak. He was trapped. Then Bob did something unexpected. He extended his hand to Wade. "Come sing with me." Wade looked at Bob's hand like it was a snake. "What?" "One song, you and me. Show these people that music can bring anyone together, even us." "I'm not singing with you." "Why not? You afraid?" The crowd picked up on it immediately. "Sing! Sing! Sing!" The chant grew louder. "Sing! Sing! Sing!" Wade looked around. The crowd was massive now, pressing in. His deputies had arrived, but there were only 3 of them. They couldn't control a crowd this size if it turned angry. Wade faced a choice: arrest Bob and risk a riot, or do something completely against everything he believed in, sing with a black reggae musician in front of his entire town. "One song," Wade said finally. "Then you leave." Bob smiled. "Deal." Bob turned to his band. "Play One Love, slow." The opening notes filled the night air. Bob began to sing, his voice carrying over the crowd. "One love, one heart, let's get together and feel all right." Wade stood there, arms crossed, not singing. The crowd booed. "Sing! Sing!" Bob stopped and turned to Wade. "You promised one song. Keep your word." Wade's face was red with humiliation and rage. But he'd given his word in front of everyone. And in the South, a man's word still meant something. Wade leaned into the microphone and sang, barely audible at first. "One love, one heart." The crowd cheered. Bob encouraged him. "Louder, Sheriff. They can't hear you." Wade sang louder. "Let's get together and feel all right." Something strange happened. As Wade sang, something in his face changed. Not his beliefs. Those were too deep to change in one moment. But something shifted. Maybe it was the music. Maybe it was the crowd's response. Maybe it was hearing his own voice say words about love and unity. Bob and Wade sang the chorus together. 2,000 people joined in, black and white voices harmonizing. "One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel all right." Wade's deputies watched from the side, stunned. They'd never seen their sheriff like this. When the song ended, the crowd erupted. Wade stepped back from the microphone, looking dazed. Bob extended his hand again. "Thank you, Sheriff." Wade looked at Bob's hand for a long moment. Then he shook it. Brief, reluctant, but he shook it. Wade left the stage and pushed through the crowd to his car. Bob finished the concert, another 90 minutes of music to a crowd that had become a movement. The next day, every newspaper in Mississippi ran the story. Racist sheriff sings One Love with Bob Marley. Photos showed Wade on stage, microphone in hand, singing. Wade became a joke to some, a traitor to others. Old friends stopped calling, people whispered, but something else happened too. Some of the younger residents looked at him differently. If Sheriff Coleman could sing with Bob Marley, maybe things could change. Maybe the old ways didn't have to be forever. Wade served as sheriff for 2 more years, then retired. He never spoke publicly about that night. But his daughter, in an interview years later, said something revealing. After that concert, my father was different, quieter. He stopped saying certain things at the dinner table. He stopped using certain words. It was like singing that song cracked something open in him. He didn't transform overnight, but he stopped being the man he'd been. Bob never returned to Greenwood, but the concert became legend. Young people who were there told their children. I saw the night music changed our town. Not completely, not perfectly, but it started something. In 2003, the Greenwood Community Center was torn down. But before demolition, someone salvaged a piece of the stage, the exact spot where Bob and Wade had stood together. It's now in a small civil rights museum in Jackson, Mississippi, with a plaque that reads, "On this stage, June 15, 1978, music did what law could not. It brought together 2 men from different worlds and made them sing the same song." Change doesn't always come from legislation or protest. Sometimes it comes from a melody, a lyric, and the courage to sing when everything in you wants to stay silent. 20 years after that night, in 1998, a young filmmaker named Sarah Mitchell came to Greenwood to make a documentary about Bob Marley's impact on small American towns. She interviewed people who'd been at that concert. "I was 16, one woman said. My daddy told me not to go, said Bob Marley was a troublemaker. But I snuck out. And when I saw Sheriff Coleman on that stage singing One Love, I realized everything I'd been taught about separation was a lie. Music showed me the truth in 3 minutes." Sarah found Wade Coleman living in a nursing home in Jackson. He was 72, frail, near the end. She asked if he'd talk about that night. "I don't like remembering it," Wade said. "I was forced onto that stage, humiliated." "Do you regret it?" Sarah asked. Wade was quiet for a long time. "I regret a lot of things I did as sheriff, things I said, things I allowed. But singing that song?" He paused. "That's the one thing I don't regret. Bob Marley made me say words I didn't believe. But saying them, hearing them come out of my mouth, it planted something. Maybe I never became a different man, but I stopped being the worst version of myself. That's something." Wade Coleman died 3 weeks after that interview. At his funeral, someone played One Love. His children requested it. They said their father would have wanted it that way. The documentary premiered at Sundance Film Festival in 1999. It was called The Sheriff and the Song. Footage from that night, grainy, shot on someone's camcorder, showed Wade and Bob on stage together. The discomfort on Wade's face, the patience on Bob's. The moment when Wade's voice joined Bob's and 2,000 people sang as one. Critics called it a masterclass in how music forces us to confront our own humanity. Today, Greenwood, Mississippi has a population of 14,000. It's still divided in many ways, still struggling with the weight of its history. But every June 15th, the town holds a One Love Festival in the parking lot where Bob played. Local musicians perform. Black and white residents come together. Young people who weren't born in 1978 sing songs about unity. And on the wall of the Greenwood Public Library, there's a quote from Bob Marley installed in 2005. "One good thing about music, when it hits you, you feel no pain." Underneath it, a local artist added their own line. "And sometimes, when it hits you, you feel your own shame." and that's when change begins.